This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. In this episode, certified financial planner Alex Murray returns to unpack key Medicare penalties like IRMAA and share insights from the first IRMAA planning class. The team also debunks some viral and dangerous financial advice circulating online while stressing the importance of holistic planning, trusted counsel, and smart, tax-efficient strategies for major financial decisions.
So in the studio, once again, we have Alex Murray, certified financial planner, and also IRMAA certified planner. Hey, first off, thanks for stepping in the studio this week.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. But how did the first IRMAA class go? And remind everybody what IRMAA is, what the heck we're talking about.
Yep. IRMAA is those Medicare penalties, so it stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And so first class went really well, good success. I think as we walk through some of the scenarios, a lot of people, different people were surprised on if they could actually be affected by it or not.
Well, I think the stats are alarming in that regard. That I think 8.4 million people got letters this past November. I believe that's the right number, but I believe it's 74% of all retirees will at some point in their life hit one of those IRMAA or Medicare penalties, and there's 5 different lines they can hit?
Yep, not only that, but if we lose a spouse, then a lot of people get more dramatically impacted by that as well.
Well, that's why planning matters, and you can get a plan ahead of the curve and stay ahead of that. Speaking of having a good plan, a little bit of volatile times in the marketplace
Absolutely.
right now. We've been talking about, obviously, we have the tariff tantrum going on, as we call it, in the markets right now. But sometimes people, they'll watch the news or they'll scour the internet, and there's let's just say there's some creative advice out there these days.
Very creative advice, yeah. So I got a couple here for you just to get your take on them. So the first one was a gentleman online claiming he could write his dog off if he considered it a guard dog. So he could write the food and the bathing and things off on his tax return.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So this is where people get themselves into harm's way and get themselves in trouble by watching somebody with no credentials post a video. Oh, you could do this or you can do that. You remind me of another one to talk about a Rolex watch a young kid posted on how he got his Rolex for free. He committed fraud. But anyway, so people give advice on things they know nothing about. So the IRS lets you write off reasonable and customary expenses as a business owner. Again, we talked about the new business owner proactive tax planning class earlier in the show with Chip. I would highly encourage you, if you're an entrepreneur, to pay attention and come to that class. But this is the kind of stuff that gets you in trouble. You can absolutely not write off your guard dog just because you call him a guard dog.
Yeah, I don't think Risen would count as a guard dog, little fluffy
exactly
white
right.
Risen.
That Risen is my dog that we actually got on Easter 5 years ago. So Easter Sunday coming up here. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's bad advice. Now, the one I was talking about was a young kid went into the store, got a credit card, went to the store and bought a Rolex watch, and then he's given this TikTok video bragging, I got this watch, and now I'm not going to pay my credit card bill, and they're going to charge it off because it's just a signature loan. I'm like, that's called fraud, and you just did it on camera. What else did you find out there?
The next one was a gentleman saying that you need to put all your assets in a revocable living trust and never pass your house via the will. Otherwise, your kids will not get the step up in cost basis, causing them to pay a large capital gain potentially.
Again, that's utter nonsense. Now, there are certain advantages to placing assets like your home, if it's paid off, into a revocable trust. That's simply so that you can keep your affairs private, typically, though. It could be some asset protection in there, but it has nothing to do with the tax ability of what's called stepped-up cost basis. You could have it in your name. You could have it in a trust. Here in Nebraska, you can do what's called TODD, transfer on death deed. All receive a stepped-up cost basis when the asset passes to your kids, at least under current law. So again, this is scary how much of this stuff, and you did this in short order, found
yes,
these things.
This is it didn't take very long for me to get this
right?
list.
So,
yes.
Well, even famous people, right? So Dave Ramsey, in full disclosure, I've taught a course called Financial Peace for my church in the past, and it's great to help people. He's done a great job, a great service to a lot of folks getting to understand the importance of controlling your debt, getting out of debt, et cetera. However, he holds no licensing whatsoever, and he'll make recommendations on things like life insurance, investments, all the time on his show. In fact, last year, the whole CFP board kind of got up in arms because he said, oh, yeah, you could take, 12% distributions out of your account and have no worries?
Yeah. The distribution rate was a little high. I don't know that math would make a ton of sense.
Well, in fact, if you retired 20 years ago and did that, you would have ran out of money in 14 years. We actually ran the numbers on that. So don't pay attention to Mr. Ramsey. He's a multi tens of millionaire. So at least when it comes to that, get competent advice, whatever you're doing. So just talk about the importance of a real plan. Like we call it a SMART plan, but even if it's not here, you should have a holistic plan that covers all the different areas of that are going to be important to a successful retirement.
Yep, all the key areas are important to have somebody in your corner that you can rely on. And I think one of the places where a lot of our advisors provide the most value for some of our clients is in a lot of those transactions, and where they're calling in and saying, "Hey, Alex, I'm buying a car," or "Hey, Alex, I want to buy this house. How can we do that most efficiently?" Because a lot of times that we can help them accomplish their goal, but how they want to go about doing it may not be the best way for them to accomplish their goals.
Well, I've often told clients over the years, I can't promise you I can make you the most money. I can't promise you I can pick every of the correct investments, but we can build a diversified portfolio. But what I can tell you with certainty is if you do need to access capital, I can tell you the most efficient place to go get it. And there's 3 different buckets, if you will, when it comes to taxation of your assets. Typically, you have tax deferred, where the bulk of Americans save their money, the 401k, the IRA, et cetera. You have taxable accounts where it's just that revocable trust or a joint account, whether it's a stock account or checking account. And then you could also just own assets there, and you would pay a different type of tax, potentially like a long-term capital gain versus an income tax on those. And then you have tax-free assets, and there's myriads of ways to use tax-free assets. Most familiar is going to be the Roth IRA, but there's a lot more that people don't realize. So you're exactly right. People need to know that when they want to make what I call a life-changing decision, we're not talking about spending $1,500, but you're going to spend $50,000. You should probably counsel with your financial advisory team on, hey, where am I getting this from the right place? Am I taking, and I can give you an instance. We had somebody retired from the federal government, and a lot of people don't realize there's what's called the Rule of 55. Well, you can access your retirement accounts like the TSP after 55 if you're retired without paying a 10% penalty. You don't have to wait till you're 59 and a half. And this person didn't know this, and they were actually going to take money from another account, or they were going to take money from this account, pay taxes plus 10% penalty. It was going to be over 45% hit. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. One, you don't have 10% over here. They had an IRA and the TSP. And it's like the IRA had the 10% penalty. That's where they're going to grab the money. TSP did not. But then I also showed them, hey, you have equity in your home, and interest rates were a little lower when this happened, like 2.5%. So we went and got them a HELOC, a home equity line of credit set up on their house. They took out the $50,000, borrowed it at 2% tax-free, and simply waited the 18 months until they were able to access those dollars without any penalties, et cetera. So you don't know what you don't know. This is why you have to have an advisory team guiding you.
Yep. And a final bit for you I got here. It's actually from one of Dave's personalities, and the tweet was
Dave Ramsey's personalities.
The S&P 500 is still up over 80% in the past 5 years.
And that is true. So again, people, when the markets draw down like they do now, sometimes people panic. We see what we call capitulation selling. They get really nervous. In fact, we just sent a video out. We had each of the advisors send a video out to all of the clients to kind of, hey, you have a plan. The plan is put in place. The plan was built for a reason. It was built to sustain even this type of market action. Again, this is the 7th bear market of my career. They don't happen that often, but now this is the 5th bear market in just the last 4 or 5 years. So that's a little bit more often than we have them. We had some COVID drawdowns, 2022, et cetera. Again, a bear market's when the major industry draws down 20%. We had that happen to the NASDAQ and the S&P already this year, and the Dow probably soon to follow. We'll see. But don't panic. Have a plan. Understand what your assets are allocated in. And I always tell people, if you're not sleeping at night, then your asset allocation is incorrect. You should probably have that conversation. And one of the things they can do is sit down with someone like Alex here and go through we have a risk tool, by the way. You can use complimentary. You don't have to come see us. Just reach out to the show here, and we'd be happy to get that in your hands so you can find out what your drawdown is, what's your risk score, what's the likelihood that your assets could fall past your comfort zone. Those are great things to do.
Yep, and it's time in the market, not timing the market, and just having a plan and knowing that you're confident in your plan so that we don't have that what you call the capitulation selling.
Well, and with the market down 20%, it's a great time to actually buy longer term assets. Now, again, we don't think the carnage is necessarily over, but if I were your age, every dollar I could scrape up, I would be funneling into my retirement accounts. And if you're pledging dollars through a 401k or 403b, we
Time
recommend
to increase those contributions.
Increase your contribution a little bit. If you're putting away 10%, maybe go online today and up that to 12 or 13%. You'd be amazed what that compounding effect will have when the markets are discounted like they are on a long-term compounded rate of return. It's absolutely incredible. Hey, the time is flying here. We got a class coming up with you in the summer, but you're going to be back to talk about that before
I'll be back
class.
to talk about IRMAA before then. So
very good. Well, thank you for stepping in the studio this week. Have a blessed week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week.